I call this meeting of the Board Finance and Operations Committee to order. The committee would like to welcome the audience. Hello, audience. Viewers may watch live board committee meetings online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. Do we have any public comment? Obviously not. Okay, draft committee meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I move to approve minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We are on to informational items. How do you like that?
Yeah,
In the lightning round here.
that's great.
So we've got some proposed transportation guidelines on here. So you might recall, we used to have Neola policies. We had a very detailed policy for transportation with Neola. With Troon, their policies are much more simple, and they recommend a lot of the details go in guidelines. We hadn't gotten to a lot of the guidelines yet. Transportation is one that Tyson and I have spent some time on. So we wanted to go through some of the parameters. Some of you weren't here when the original decisions were made on what we actually offer to students. We offer a lot of varieties to students. As you know, over the years, we've kind of struggled with the number of bus drivers, so that does kind of pinch us in some situations. We've been fortunate to hire a few. It's not perfect, but knock on wood, it's not as bad as not running afternoon routes, but doesn't mean that couldn't happen again. So just wanted to review before taking, guidelines really are administrative guidelines. We take them to the board to get feedback. It's not really an item that gets approved by the board, but definitely want your input. So we thought we'd go over kind of what's going on in transportation, some of the changes. We've had some pretty major changes with technology and what we're able to do to track students, which has been a huge benefit on identifying where students go and making sure they go to the right place, the right bus. But it's not K-12, and so that's kind of another, I guess, ask I have. It might be a big one, but looking towards some more student ID protocol. So I wanna just have Tyson go over a little bit kind of our current state and what we're doing, and then show you a little bit about the transportation software and what parents are able to see.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
So to start with the current situation, excuse me, we currently let every student we allow them to have 2 different stops per student. So that means they could ride to let's say a split household to their father's address and to their mother's address would be a great example. Or to grandparents in the afternoon, whatever it might be, they're allowed 2 different stops. So we currently have 251 students that the parents take that opportunity, and they do have 2 stops. That does add a load it adds more difficulty to us because we kind of have to have a seat for that student than on 2 different buses. Even though they may never use one of those stops in case of emergency or whatever like that. So that does allow us, I can give you an example of Peninsula route out of Central High School, because we do have a lot of high schoolers that request transportation, yet they do not use it for numerous reasons. One's they have a car, they have sporting events, they have sporting practices. So the one bus that goes out on the peninsula out of Central High School, we have 181 students assigned to that bus. A 77 passenger bus, 181 assigned to it because that's who's requested transportation. And on average, we have 30 riders. So that does make for a little difficulty where this tablet that we're going to talk about just in a couple minutes does help out those parents because they'll be able to see when their student is going to get home, because we have to route that bus as it does all 181 students. So they're scheduled to get home possibly at 5:30, but it never takes that long because we only have 30 riders. So current and open enrolled students, we have 175 that we transport. Schools of choice, We have 248 students that still use transportation, even though they're open enrolled. They do have to have a stop that's within their school's boundary, but that is not their home address, so their parents could pick them up from whatever closest stop is to them, or possibly to their work address, as long as we have homes. We do not deliver to businesses, but there could be a current stop that is fairly close to their work address that we could use. Different ones like that. And then for non-public students, we have 97 that currently have requested transportation, and we do transport whenever they're at their stop or whenever they get on the bus in the afternoon. For our count weeks, we only do counts in the morning for count week. And we're right around 2,600. This has been a couple years running, right around 2,600 students that we physically transport in the morning for count week. So that is a great average to tell you how many students we transport every day.
How many students does a bus hold?
Our buses hold 77. Knowing that you cannot put 77 high schoolers on that bus because a seat is split up, and you can hold 2.6 students per seat, so that makes 3. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
You cannot put 77 high schoolers on that bus, or you cannot get down the aisle because they're sitting in the aisle.
Right.
Because you only get 0.6 of a seat. Anyway.
I'm striving to be 0.6, I'm 1.3 right now. Striving for that some point, just saying.
So you understand.
You average what, 50?
We tried, a perfectly loaded bus is 51 students. The one seat in the back only holds 1. Otherwise, it's 2 to every seat. So that is a perfectly loaded bus to us is 51 students. That's 2 to every seat.
So the Peninsula example that you gave with 100+ kids.
Yes.
That means you're running multiple buses.
No, that's just the ones that have requested transportation, but
Okay.
only right around 30 students actually ride the bus every night.
Okay. What would
I
happen if
think
all
possibly-
80 decided one day they were gonna ride the bus?
It has yet to happen.
Okay.
And this has been years and years of not overloading, but whatever the word might be.
Yeah, we overschedule because the
Yes.
history is shown for
Yes.
15 years.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, as much as we ask people, please remove it if you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they'll start in September, but once they turn 16 and get a car, they just don't remove it.
Yeah.
And we try to go through, if they haven't ridden in so many days or weeks, we try to go through and make some calls and remove as we can. The issue with scheduling is if we're supposed to be totally efficient at 51 students, yet we're only filling this bus with 30 because we don't know that other factor, we're underutilizing our school bus on the peninsula, and we
Right.
could possibly eliminate a route or, have a bus go up some of the peninsula, but not the whole way. So it's not really a great efficient way to route our buses. They're
Yeah.
underutilized.
Yeah.
And we do have areas over the past years, we do have areas of the district that we do not do the 180. Because we know if they request transportation, 80% of those students that request it will be riding. So there are areas throughout the years that we understand that we cannot do that.
Yeah.
That the peninsula is an over-exaggerated spot that some parents will tell us, I really want the option of transportation just in case I want to take my car away from my student, or if they lose their car or it breaks down. But
And in those
those are numerous
situa-
reasons that we.
Yeah, in those situations, we've tried to communicate, you could always add it later.
Yeah.
It'd be a whole lot easier for us to schedule who's actually gonna run on a daily basis and then add it later.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's just not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Tyson, what are there is no legal requirement from the state of Michigan that we need to bus students, correct?
Not general ed.
All right. Have we ever contemplated some age threshold where we say, listen, we will bus kids up to a certain age, and then after that, we're gonna have to
We did, I believe, when West Senior High was built, is that why we had the issues of the, way it was going, that they didn't do high school transportation?
I don't remember the reason, it was right when I started though, and there was no high school transportation.
So we didn't offer it 27 years ago, 25 years ago, well, 23 years ago, something like that. It did not go well. And almost immediately, the board reversed the decision.
It didn't go well because we
Students
had-
weren't coming to school.
Okay, and we've never contemplated beta as an option for a certain age.
We use Beta, we actually pay Beta to transport high school students. We have an agreement with them. Some high school students would prefer to use that, especially at a central high school, we get a lot of users, so we do offer that as an option for students.
Is that more cost effective?
It's hard to tell.
Okay,
I mean, depending on what bus they would be assigned and if there's room, no, but we haven't analyzed every single student, it's not that much. I don't know if you remember, Julie, but I'd be shocked if it was over $2,000 in a year.
Right.
Yeah, it is not that much.
for beta
Yes.
as an option.
Yeah.
I'm
And that's
just
just
thinking
been-
in terms of, but if we get into budgetary cutbacks, and is there a way to refine this to the point where we're busing only those kids who really need to be bused?
Well, once you offer it, you have to offer it to all.
Well, I
So you
understand.
can pick your grade span, so you certainly could say no high school, but it has to be grade spans, it can't be age. So it would have to be elementary, middle, or high school. But once you decide to offer it, you have to offer it to all with parameters, so we make the parameters. If you live more than, we have identified non-transport zones, so around each building, we've made some areas that you don't qualify for transportation because we deem it walkable. So there's things like that, and then we make some parameters around, we've decided to offer it to everybody, open enroll schools of choice, and it puts some pressure on the system. The 2 stops certainly put some pressure on the system. We've gotten a lot of feedback about the need over the years, so it's a challenge. People expect transportation. And the numbers that are for count week are really skewed. I don't know why they only let us do a morning count, but our afternoon routes are way heavier. We have a lot more afternoon routes, so 2,600 is not the amount of students we transport on a daily basis, that's just morning.
Can you guess how many are in the afternoon?
How many more routes do you have in the afternoon?
14, because we run, in the morning, we run high school and middle school together. At night, we run high school and middle school separately.
So I would say it's probably about 3,400, 3,300.
Yeah, because 2,600 is about a third of our kids. 3,400's not quite half, but
Right.
because 2,600, when I saw that,
It seems
I
low.
was wondering if we were happy with that. But 3,400,
Afternoon is definitely,
kids.
Yep.
40%. Okay.
But we have, since COVID, which I dislike saying that, but it is what it is. Since COVID, we have seen at the schools a lot more parent drop-offs.
well, it's multifaceted.
Yes.
We've had some budget constraints and we've had some challenges getting drivers, so we've been intentionally making buses longer and packing them. And a lot of parents are then, the reaction is they choose to drive, so it ebbs and flows. If we ever get to a situation where we're fully staffed and we can lessen the times, depending on budget, we might see an influx of students come back. Our sites struggle to handle the number of passenger vehicles.
Yeah, because the other, obviously, 70 to 60% is cars, right? So, I mean, less than 5% walk.
So, one last question. If you eliminate routes, does that eliminate a bus driver? Is it,
As long as we can eliminate a complete route set, because our bus drivers, they come in and they'll do at least 2 routes in the morning. Some buses will run 3 plus a shuttle. So if we can complete a complete route set, yes, it does. But if we do an elementary route, if we're able to reduce one elementary route, it does not necessarily get rid of a bus driver or the need of a bus driver, since we still have to transport those middle school, high school students that are on a route before it, or a shuttle bus if we don't have the space.
So we have a 3-tier system, so all buses start with middle school, high school, and they all come in together, and we have a shuttle system. And then we run elementaries, and we're able to do on some of them 3 tiers, because we have some early school starts at 8:15, and then some at 8:45. So some buses have 3 runs, and some have 2.
And how many bus drivers are we short right now?
It would, currently, we can run every route that we currently have, plus we have 3 or 4 spare drivers. But it would depend on if we wanted to, give our services, expand our services.
Well, we actually have contract language where we're supposed to meet a ratio, so I think in order to meet ratio, we're at least 5 to 6 still short.
That's more to meet contract demands than transportation demands.
It meets transportation demands too. I don't know how many you have off right now on short-term or long-term leave.
Two
Yeah,
on long-term medical leave.
Even though we have enough, we have 2 off, long-term leave, so, you know, he said we have 2 or 3 extra, well, plunk 2 in there and now you only have 1 extra, so. And we still have, you know, sicknesses and,
We are still to the amount where often our mechanics have had to drive. You know, so I do wanna give this, you know, the semantics, a little bit of the language that, you know, we haven't, you know, cut drivers. We've made less routes because we haven't had enough drivers. And so we would actually, if we had more drivers within our current budget, we would have more routes.
Therefore, they might be shorter routes than,
shorter, less
would-
full, hopefully
exactly.
less behavior issues,
Which
maybe
may
not.
then encourage parents to use transportation more because shorter routes, less kids. And so that would be, right now, as I said, that would be our goal, is to try and have more drivers and more routes to shorten times and fewer kids.
And alleviate the pressure at the sites.
Yes.
And honestly, it's, you know, the school bus is the safest form of transportation. I know sometimes in the winter, parents get a little upset about the weather and they choose to drive them. It's 99% safer to put them on that school bus.
And when we talk about, you know, many of our elementaries and the amount of traffic, that is a contributing factor, no doubt. And so if we were able to have more routes, I do think it would lessen the traffic at those buildings.
I'll also point out, because you know, safety obviously ties to our new 5-year plan. What also ties to transportation is attendance. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier. And I think in April, the curriculum, the truancy officer was here talking about the reasons why kids are chronically absent, and transportation was one of the reasons she mentioned. So we spend $6 million a year, to Scott's point, on transportation, but I do think it's a good investment, especially if we're serious about getting kids to school. So, and if we're gonna dive into this policy, I like that it's shorter, to be honest, and more to the point.
yeah, I'm just asking the questions because as you get into a budget morass, sometimes those are the kinds of things that you need to have on the table, at least as an option. And if it says, I'm not convinced necessarily that the lack of a bus is one of the reasons a kid doesn't get to school, but there may be some correlation there.
There are some, definitely. When we had to, you know, by not having enough drivers, when we had to temporarily suspend our secondary routes, we had kids not able to get to school.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago, I mean, we had a lot of parents step forward to say, okay, I'll drive, and we put out that need saying if you can take your kid off of a route,
Yeah.
it would help, and so we did have that, but then we also had the kids that don't have the options.
And we worked with Beta as much as we
Yeah.
possibly could. You know, they were great to work with, to be clear. But, you know, they were strapped as well, you know, I mean, so it just, again, there were limitations to our ability. And, you know, I think that's one of the things as a district, while I constantly, in Lansing especially, harp on, you know, when you're 300 square miles, there's a reality,
Oh, yeah.
you know, to all that. But I think we've been very prideful of our transportation system and our folks that work in that. And so from a budgetary priority, I would continue to advocate for that. But if you ever did get to that point, that definitely is a component that's not lawfully required, but it sure makes a difference for some kids' only way to get to school and get a breakfast and a lunch every day.
we have an emergency number that they can call to get transportation? If, hypothetically, if they're not on a bus route or that bus route's been suspended, is there a way that they can get to school via or?
I mean, yeah, if they qualify and they call, we can typically get them on a route pretty quickly. Sometimes it takes a couple of days because you have to actually reroute a bus to get them on. A lot of times you already have a bus going to a stop that they can go to, so it's pretty simple to get them on. We could do it that day. But if they don't qualify for transportation, then we would give them Beta's phone number.
Okay. Just asking the question since we're into policy.
And also that if we have students that are in that situation, that's where the student support network can step in and help too.
Yeah, okay. And if worst comes to worst, John can drive them?
You know, Christine hasn't let me do it yet, and probably for good reason. But I do keep, as I told the board, I have my DOT physical this week.
More often than not, our accidents are related to other people hitting us, and I don't want his picture on the front page of the paper.
So it's an emergency kind of thing. If wintertime, if a bus ever got stuck, I could go out and get one. Like, you know, it is literally kind of last resort, but
Yeah.
I've got that as a last resort just in case.
So, Tyson, so over the years, we've really worked at efficiency and trying to be frugal with our budget. Quite a long time ago, we outsourced special ed to the ISD because of the state reimbursement. And we've been working towards a lot of efficiencies with routing, which kind of ties to software. So I'll let Tyson give an overview of the new student, My Ride K-12.
Well, I was just good. Did you have a question, Ty?
No, I was hoping to get to
Okay, thank you.
the ID.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll let him go over the new routing software and what you can do with it and how it's going so far with elementary students who are required to scan on and off the bus. Which surprisingly, middle school students are more of a challenge than elementary, but we're working with elementary students right now.
The elementary students, it's going quite well, so they all get a ID card with their picture on it, and it's RFID, so they can scan on and scan off the bus, which we can see at the transportation office, and also the parents can see on the My Ride K-12 app. They can see the last time their student scanned on, the last time they scanned off, what time they got off, and where they got off. If they were to try to get on the wrong bus and scan on, it does pop up red to tell the driver that the student does not belong on their bus. Or if they try to scan off at the wrong stop, it'll do the exact same thing. So it is a safety function that has helped out, because the drivers, especially when we put sub-drivers out there, they do not know specifically where every student goes. So it helps out a lot. The parents can easily sign up. Closer to the beginning of the school year, we send out the instructions on how to sign up for the My Ride K-12 app. And it's fairly easy for them to get on. They need to know the student's ID number and the student's first name. And we can change those requirements in the system. That just seems to have worked well, so that other people that aren't supposed to, they can't just sign up for any student. It also, there's a tablet on every bus, which gives us GPS. It tells the ones in the office, which decreases radio traffic, because with 55 buses out in the afternoon, the radio sometimes does get very crowded with one radio. So we can just look on the GPS, we can tell that the bus is almost to its stop, or it's maybe past the stop and we have to bring it back because a student could have been sleeping or whatever. So it has increased that. It helps us know where the buses are and where they're going next. The tablets will help out our alternates. Plus, at the beginning of the year, they help out the regular drivers. It is just like a GPS. It can talk to you. It'll tell you this stop is within 500 feet. So you're not spending so much time trying to see house numbers or mailbox numbers, and you can actually focus on the road better and or the students that are behind you, the 51 that are behind you. The tablets for a safety function, which allows us to have the tablets on the bus. One of the safety functions, if the bus is moving, you cannot do anything on the tablet. It'll talk to you, it'll show you where you're at, but it does not allow you to punch any buttons. It shuts off the ability to do anything or try to go to the next stop or whatever until you are completely stopped. So that is a safety function which allows the state police to inspect them, and it allows us to have them on a school bus. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, that one. So the My Ride K-12 app, and most parents that call that have an issue with their stop or want to change stops, we always promote the My Ride K-12 app, and there's a few good reasons for it. You'll see that the second one in, it will tell you where your stop is located at. You can see above the last scan of your student, so that'll tell you when your student last scanned on or off the bus. And you can have there's multiple students on that page. If you have a family of 5 or whatever, you can have multiple students on that page. The third one over, if you were to hit for details on your student, it'll tell you the pickup time. You'll see it there in the gray box. The pickup time, drop-off time, scheduled pickup time, drop-off time. And you'll see down below, if we have a split household or for some reason you have 2 different stops, you can see that we could assign your student per days of the week, or every day they could go to either stop, what school and what the location is, and also your route number, which that one happens to be 5:04 p.m. And if you go to the far right one, if the bus driver is on your route, because the only time you can see this last one is if your driver is driving that route, and you can see the block in yellow, that the system keeps updating on what your actual drop-off time would be. So if you are on a high school route, those are our ones that 181 students, so you're driving out on the peninsula, that will keep updating on your actual drop-off time. And you can see this student happens to be a middle schooler, and you'll see that we dropped off this student at 3:17, but their scheduled drop-off time was 3:25. So you could actually see that just because there weren't students on the bus, maybe we didn't have to go to 1 or 2 stops. So that will keep updating you. So you'll know approximate time that you're, within a minute of when your student actually did get off the bus. And this one keeps updating until your student gets off, and then it locks in a time. That's the locked off time, because we actually dropped the student off at 3:17. But this system does keep updating you to give you a better time estimate. So.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice.
Yeah, and for parents that have stops towards the end of the route that could see some major shifts and changes, the first screen, they're able to see where the bus is. So instead of calling the office to say, when's the bus gonna be here, they can see, oh, it's 2 stops before mine, I know it's only gonna be a few minutes. Or, oh my gosh, they're running really early, I'm gonna head to my stop.
Or they're running really early and I'm gonna be 10 minutes late, so you could text your kid and say, hey, you guys are early, I'm not gonna be there for 10 more minutes, or, I gotta get across town, so, that's.
And this My Ride K-12 app does allow you to do messages to us, which we get them in our emails. No pickup needed this morning, which is the highest one that's the highest one that we get every morning. If we have, we ask the parents, because they have stops, if they're a single student at a single stop, we do ask them, hey, just use the My Ride K-12 app. No ride this morning is required. So it's nice for us.
Saves some.
Do we allow adults or parents to pull kids off a bus before their drop-off? In other words,
they would have to call us to get off at a different stop, and we'd have to approve it. It would have to be a legitimate bus stop, not just, hey, can you pull over because I'm behind you? We don't allow, because it has to be an authorized bus stop.
I mean, if you're in a custody dispute and one parent wants to pull a kid off the bus, I mean, we have some kind of security to prevent or at least.
The bus driver would, the student would have to be a very big component of that. If they were to call us, we do verify in Power School that they are able to pick up the student from school. So we do verify the person that we're talking to, and then we would have to do it it does not happen very often.
Okay, no, I
Yes,
can't imagine
yeah.
it doesn't.
But if it's joint physical custody, either one can pick them up. We don't know day by day we don't get the student's schedule. So it could be mom's supposed to get you and dad comes to get you. But if they're a legal guardian and have access in Power School to pick up the student, we will release them.
Okay, just curious. All right, anything further?
That's.
Yeah, I think just going over some of the, so the current I shared the old Neola policy just so you could see how detailed it was. And a lot of those, details we are recommending keeping in a guideline. We provided the draft guideline for you with some of those things. We've made a little bit of changes as it relates to some program names. You know, we offer transportation for GSRP. It used to be called Ready For. There's a lot of things that we offer for like specific programs, so we try to spell those out so people know whether they qualify or not. Montessori's identified as not qualifying for transportation, so we spell out some of those things. I think the big one, for one, is if the board wanted to make any changes to allowing 2 stops or open enrolled or schools of choice, that would be something of discussion. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but it could be of discussion if there's a concern. If we get into more of a pinch with the number of drivers we have, we could discuss that. But really, the main reason I'd like to involve the board is we don't require middle school and high school students to wear their IDs, and I would like to. And the reason is we don't know who they are and it's much harder to scan them on and off. You would have to do a manually entry of every student, and it's a lot easier to simply scan their tag. So it becomes quite cumbersome on a high school bus when you have different students riding every day for the driver to get to know them. And it's the same thing. We want to know where they get off. You know, we have had students not follow the directions of parents and get off somewhere else, and we have to go by the bus driver's memory. We can't necessarily look at when they got off and exactly where. So that is a big thing that I would like to ask the board to discuss, even as it relates to safety and security. It's something Patrick and I have talked about. You know, in a school, you know, if you're in an emergency and kids don't have ID tags on, I don't think law enforcement could assume that all of those students are students, right?
Right.
So even staff, we struggle with staff not wearing their IDs. It's been a directive, but most of them don't. And I think if you're in an emergency situation, it makes it a lot easier if you have some kind of identification that you're supposed to be there. So that's something that I would like to push a little bit and ask for support on that. I know it's probably a bigger conversation. It's not so simple. You know, the follow-up on that and the accountability on that is a big deal. But it certainly would help for safety and security in school and on the bus.
What kind of expense regarding like the iPads and is their student ID already would be used for, okay, so
It's ready to go.
they don't need new IDs, okay.
Yeah, they already get the ID, they're just not required to wear it at school or on the bus.
So it would be purchasing the iPads and then just linking into the software.
We already have, all buses have them because most do an elementary route already, so it's already there. So they get directions for the high school.
Okay.
But if they're not able to spend the time to manually enter each student as they're getting on, it's still a student getting off where they want, and we might not know if that's accurate or not.
So the real question is do we force and require students to have those and A, for the bus, B, in school all times to, have a lanyard and have, but, so I have mine, I really do.
I was gonna say,
Thanks, I have it. There it is, right there.
So I'm
And then
trying to,
put it on
looking
you
at
this
our
morning.
policies, we currently don't have any policies. I just searched ID or identification. We have no policy right now for anybody.
no.
Well, I think I'd like to chat about it, maybe bring it to executive, get their take from the policy
And
standpoint.
we've had a challenge with staff, like we did a big push to upgrade all student ID or staff IDs last year. New pictures, we had staff with 15-year-old pictures, they weren't even recognizable anymore, so we did a big push to do that. And some of the cards Julie was getting back, we had teachers with cartoon character pictures over their photo, and like, these are TCAPS property. You're not supposed to damage or mess with it, and you're supposed to wear it, that's why it's given to you. in the event of emergency, I don't think a law enforcement officer is going to take a teacher seriously with a cartoon character on their ID tag.
The, you don't have to, for the kids, I understand the staff, but the kids, I mean, they could keep it in their backpack, right? And as they boarded the bus, pull it out. I mean, we're not
Two different
physically.
theories there. So the first thing is, do you, from an emergency standpoint, again, do I know that senior is a perpetrator or a student? And so that's a question from that. Now, if you didn't want to go that far, it could be, yes, you just pull out of your pocket, that, for instance, right now, we do require them for like dances. They have to show their student ID to be able to get in the door to dance or prom or those kind of things. But this is another step up to be able to get on the bus, that you have to have your ID, scan it in, boom.
And don't they use their IDs for like library?
And they would that as well,
And
yeah.
athletics.
And
Athletics, okay.
It would help with food service. We still, although it's free meals, we get a portion from the federal government and a portion from state, so we still have to claim the meals. It would help if they could actually see their ID and punch them in as they're starting to come to checkout versus waiting for them to get there and tell them their name. It would help with a lot of operational procedures within the district.
So,
Sounds to me like a behavior modification.
well, it would be, and it'd be big, so, but that's where I think getting feedback and thought from people that you talk to, all that, as we, ponder this, is something why we're throwing it out there now, and
Might be good to bring to the student advisory council too, just, I just can see, I can
Yeah.
just hear the pushback.
yeah. But,
And I don't disagree that they should have it with them at all times, and to be able to pull it out to get on the bus, or library, or food service, like, have it ready for food service, like, pull it out, but to physically have it on them, I think it would cause more,
there are districts that do it.
yeah.
Well, and I see it's added to the guidelines, and I think it makes sense to me, especially if we're using this data to help make better decisions around routes. I mean, I get the safety, but I'm also curious about how we help kids get to school, if we're serious about, again, decreases absences. So I like Erica's idea of asking the student advisory, and I also maybe have some more information, pros and cons, and bring it to exec.
So it's two components, staff and students. Staff especially, I mean, we have so many adults in a building, and it's really nice to know as principals are walking around whether they're supposed to be there or not.
Well, and I find it difficult to ask the students to wear this if the staff isn't doing it. I mean, they're one and the same, and it's a security issue, it's a safety issue. And it's a mandate. I mean, come on.
We went to a safety conference, Patrick and I did in Texas, and we kind of brought up the concern we had about this, and every district looked at us like, that's an expectation. What do you mean they don't wear it?
Yeah, this
It's
is
a little eye-opening.
no, whatever.
The majority of our staff wear it.
Yeah.
Everybody here wears it. Principals, I believe, all wear it. Custodians wear it. All operational staff, food service, bus drivers, they all wear it on a daily basis. And a lot of our hourly staff wear it because that's how they clock in and out for the day to get paid. So they just wear it because it's a whole lot easier than digging it out of your purse every time you need to change a job or.
I always feel obligated going into a building that I really do have my ID, just if it's, going to Traverse Heights sorting, whatever it is, just so kids, adults can identify, just that I'm with TCAPS, I don't know. I try. But I do think staff-wise, I think that should be mandatory, and maybe the student part is another discussion, yeah.
So we've got to start with staff, because if they see the modeling behavior that somebody's got a cartoon character on theirs and isn't wearing it, well, why do I have to do it then?
Well, security has definitely changed, and so I think it's time probably for a reinforcement of conversation on it.
Does the TC Police Department or State Police have access to any of these logs that can they get to these logs if there's a missing kid or?
No.
Not without coming through us.
Yeah.
No, but they would come to you, but
Oh, yeah.
electronically, they could see it tracking
If they came, they could see it. I mean, through us, we would log in, we could tell them exactly where the student scanned on, scanned off. Absolutely.
But they can't punch in, they don't have access to the system themselves.
Okay. All right, anything else on this?
Oh,
Are you
that's
looking
it.
for feedback on this new policy?
This is a recommended guideline
Well, I mean the policy though, the 5802.
that's already been approved by the board. I was just showing, what I wanna do is show you how different the old one and the new one were and why we have a need for guidelines. So that's why I provided it.
Gotcha.
So,
And I don't recommend changing the policy, I think, unless you wanted to do the ID part in its own policy, I'm sure
No, I
Connie
mean,
could.
I don't wanna change it, I just, to your point about what we deem walkable, and then we are not required in those mile and a half. You know, I mean, I know we're not required to provide any transportation, but just, and so if we've already approved this, we can let it go and it's fine.
Well, the policy itself is very vague, it is not these details. So if
I'm
you,
reading it, 5802, the district is not required to transfer or pay for transportation for a student who lives with 1.5 miles of the student's school.
that doesn't mean we don't provide it,
No, I know that,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
but I mean, I just, yeah,
There are some situations where we transport kids that live less than a mile and a half from their school, depending on where they're located. So that's the requirement, but we can choose how to provide it. I guess what I'm saying is if you'd like to have a conversation about how many students don't get transported that maybe aren't attending school, we could take a look at that if you're saying maybe we need to provide more transportation in some areas.
right, I mean, and that can be for later, but just trying to
Yeah.
connect this work to the 5-year plan.
Yep.
It's sometimes hard for
Yeah.
me, but, the safety aspect certainly makes sense.
The other thing it used to be in policy, but there's an appeal process. We've been kind of operating under the same thing, even though it's not spelled out in policy, so I put it in guideline. Typically, if there's an appeal of a parent to receive some kind of transportation, it'll go through a manager and then Tyson, and then their final appeal would be to me, and we just have asked the board for backing that my decision's final.
We'll decide that when we hear the decision.
Hey, you can come look at it with me if you
No,
want.
no, I don't.
You can help me decide.
All right, anything further?
Not on this one.
All right, moving on. Capital projects, I think, is next.
It is.
There we go, see?
we go.
I memorized this thing.
We're back over at Trav Heights here just to show the classrooms we've got. We've got temporary certificates of occupancy right now because we're adding another ingress egress doorway and sidewalk and doing some sidewalk repairs to close the project out. But classrooms are occupied.
I like that little rug, it tells kids where to sit in a circle.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes,
they've got those everywhere.
they do.
it's great.
Those are the ones we typically provide when we do the renovations and work in the classroom, so. But they're in use, everybody's banging away, there's a handful of punch list items, of course, but will be
Those are
taken care of.
the new digital display boards that Evan's been working on instead of projectors. It's touchscreen, but also teachers are able to log into it as a computer. There's a lot of functions and features where they can actually look at what kids are doing on their Chromebooks and pull it up there so students can show their work. There's also the ability to use a whiteboard function where if they provide something on a whiteboard, they can actually save it. Unlike a regular whiteboard where eventually it gets erased or you'd have to take a picture of it, you can actually save it if it's a lesson that you wanna be able to pull back up again to talk to students about. So there's a lot of nice features, and that's part of the pilot that Evan did. Remember we talked about needing 5 million to upgrade all classrooms throughout the whole district to this feature. This includes the speaker systems and the mic for audio. But this is the visual component, and teachers have vetted this over the last couple of years.
And this is out at facilities, the storage building, going up, it looks quite a bit different this morning. But the siding is pretty much done on the exterior. We're almost completely weathered in with that. We'll be doing the interior concrete work and the interior construction on this shortly.
Well, we're running up against a deadline on the concrete work, aren't we?
No, we'll be inside, we'll be weathered in.
Okay, so they can pour it.
Yep, it'll actually, we're hoping for rain right now, because then the concrete crews will come and do this, because they can't work outside. So we're hoping for
Well,
rain.
wait, they gotta pour saving sidewalks first.
Oh, it sounds like
done.
my
That's
husband,
done,
since he does exactly this stuff.
Yeah.
Hope for rain so they can move inside.
So, and, this is over at Saban, the windows are going in, the exterior on the perimeter, and that, this is the first bands of new windows going into place there. This interior, it's all demoed out now,
See it?
and they're prepping for, starting to construct the interior partitions and, doing floor work.
Looks different.
Concrete, a little bit different. And then this was yesterday afternoon, the concrete truck's there, they're pouring the sidewalks and some of the curb and that, so they can, finish the paving on this side of the parking lot. This side's got the, base coat in already. And of course, when we do new paving and new projects with parking lots and all that,
We're
we
getting
have
a
to
swimming
meet new
pool.
requirements, which require much more on-site retainage, of stormwater than, it did in the past, so
That stays on site, right?
it stays on site.
I assume it perks through there.
It does.
Swimming pool.
And then our
Freeze it
EV charging station, they were out there yesterday, finishing some of the installation of the charging station itself. All the wiring and all that'll be done today. And then we are now in a holding pattern to get Consumers Energy back to finish their piece of work. But I will tell you this, any project that I do from now on that involves CE, I'm gonna tag it as an EV project, because I've never seen that company get out and do something so fast to get this done. It's mind-boggling how fast they came out and did everything up to a certain point. Our contractor's finishing his work, they'll be back to finish theirs.
Or they're gonna lose some federal incentives for that, yeah.
So,
Tyson, do you have an update on when the bus is supposed to be here?
No, we have asked Hoekstra, the bus has been built. It is sitting outside of the assembly line. It's missing a couple parts. We had to wait a timeline before we could request information on what parts it's waiting on. We have met that timeline and we have now asked, so they just have not gotten back with us.
I was afraid I wouldn't get this done before the bus got here.
You're good.
Good.
What has it been, 2 years?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
And we have two more
Yeah.
that we're just waiting to see if the EPA is gonna fund or not.
Right,
It's just kind of radio silence before the shutdown,
yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see.
Before you get into that, I wanna mention Tuesday night, Builders Exchange in Northern Michigan had a recognition and awards dinner. And the IMC project, Bauma and DNW both were recognized and received awards for their work on those projects.
Oh, cool.
They spoke very highly of TCAPS, and the one gentleman who went to Central High School said it's very exciting to see both high schools get the same thing at the same time. Doesn't usually happen,
Mm-hmm.
so he was pretty excited about that.
That's cool.
That's it.
All right, that's your
Alright.
update? Okay,
So finance update, so I know we have shared some numbers where we thought the audit would end, anywhere from 500,000 plus to 300,000. We actually ended adding 441,000. We had some decreased revenue hit our August state aid, so we made some adjustments for that, but we are currently at 12.4% fund balance of our expenditures, total expenditures, so pretty much on target to what the board has verbally said they'd like a 12% fund balance, so that is good news. As far as, and our principal from Manor Casterison will be here November 10th to give you an overview of the full audit and any questions that you might have. We have our annual report drafted. We do have printed copies. I'm pretty sure Tammy reached out to see if anybody
She will
wanted one.
tomorrow.
She will
Yep.
tomorrow. So if you want a paper copy.
Or you can grab one today.
Is it online yet?
Not until she sends out the packet tomorrow.
Can I back up for a second on capital projects real quick and just ask you a question about West Senior High and why? Because I drove through yesterday and I saw the lights are still bagged. but did they improve those lights and turning at Zimmerman, the county?
Yes, they've changed the timing.
The
on
timing,
the
okay.
Lights out there, they've changed it. Actually, they're out there installing, they were doing the concrete bases for the new poles.
Okay, that's what I saw them do yesterday,
Yeah,
okay.
They were out there,
I
they're
wondered what
working
they were
on it.
doing, okay,
So you can see all the stuff that's staged over in the old entryway.
yeah,
Those are the contractors doing the work for the new lights.
okay,
And I,
Turn arrow too,
got it.
yeah,
the
with,
turn arrow.
with the
Yep,
green
With
arrow,
the
yes.
left turn arrows, yep.
It's gonna be a minute though, I didn't know that it would take a few weeks for this, I thought it would be maybe a week, but sounds like it might not
It's
be
gonna
till
take
the
a
end
minute.
of November that it'll be complete, but they're working on it.
Okay.
We have
That was my
seen,
question.
we've been paying attention to the wait lines to get out, and when US 31 opened, it drastically improved.
Yeah.
So we've seen a major improvement. There's still some that get stuck,
Mhm.
10 to 14 minutes, but I've not seen anything beyond that, and I think people were saying it was like 22 before, so we've seen an improvement.
Mhm.
There's certainly peak times in the morning where it's just hard, but
Our engineers that designed or did the project for us out there, we spent the afternoon on the roof the other day watching the whole process and from, it was 3:02 when the bell rings to release students, the traffic was cleared by 3:20.
Yeah, good.
It's
Well, and
amazing,
with all
it's
the-
amazing when you open up 4 roads and
Exactly.
of what it'll
They're
do.
all open, I mean, right, it's
Yeah.
crazy,
Is
so.
Barney open now too?
Is what?
Is Barney open now too?
Ooh, I don't know.
We've been able to use Barney,
Okay.
not fully, but
Okay.
yes.
They still have the traffic
It just
light.
felt like we were getting hit on both sides
Uh-huh.
but you know, we surged from 9,000 to 15,000 cars, there's gonna be an impact.
Yeah.
So,
So when we get the turn lane and light in, I'm pretty confident that it'll be
Yeah.
much, even more improved.
Yeah, good, thank you for that
Yeah.
update, sorry, okay, moving on.
so, for budget for this year, for fiscal '26, you know, we have a budget, we just don't have all the details just yet. So there's some big components I just wanna make sure you're aware of. There's a new section called 27L, it's called, well, there's two parts of 27L. There's an educator compensation, we have an estimated allocation of 1.2 million, and this is to be, in improving or, providing, it's meant to be providing relief to staff for extra insurance costs. But it basically needs to be a new negotiated item to give that money to the staff, so we'd have to negotiate with the unions. We probably won't know all the details on the actual allocation till February or March, so if you hear anything from teachers, we're aware of it, we don't have all the rules and we don't know our allocation, it's gonna be a minute unfortunately until they work that all out. The other part of it is a MIPSR's healthcare allocation, and that's a district reimbursement for healthcare, the district's healthcare benefit. So that's about $918,000. On the at-risk side, we have seen an initial estimate of our allocation be much larger than we anticipated. We are a little bit confused as to the calculation that they used and want to make sure that the calculation is 100% accurate before we actually make plans to spend that money in case there was an error. I think we're pretty close to getting that. I know John's been trying to get some information from MDE. It looks like it's legit. I just wish they would give us the calculation itself so we could figure out. They have inflated our student count. And it's odd. Normally, if they give you extra, it's your student count plus a percentage or something. So you can actually do the math yourself and figure it out. I can't figure out how they got that student count. It's very inflated from our actual student count. And every district's different. So there's no, like Sandy and I sat down, I'm like, well, take this district's student count actual to what they had. Is there a percentage that matches? There's no rhyme or reason. So we just are cautious when we get something that doesn't make sense. So we don't necessarily wanna spend the money.
Right. I did call MDE and had a conversation with, with some of their folks, and they're supposed to get back to me like today, hopefully,
So
so.
MDE will answer that question as to how they
Maybe.
figured it out.
Well, I asked specifically, is this a reality, of what we should be getting based on the numbers, or is there still an adjustment to be made that hasn't been made for, the content of how many students qualify? She didn't know the answer, but she was gonna work with state aid and have me first of this week that answer of if it's already been adjusted or if there's an adjustment to be made still, so.
I've never seen them report our student count. differently than what it actually is. So that it's just a very odd calculation to me. If somebody looks at that, they would get a very different perception of TCAPS. It's not accurate. So that's an odd way to do it for me. I think it kind of puts out some misinformation.
But we just don't know, is a component of what they have that there's some kind of hold harmless component again?
Yeah.
Or is there a equalization of the two numbers?
Yeah.
Not real sure, but that's what we gotta find out.
So, need more detail on that one. And then on our student count, so I wish I could tell you for sure where we are this year. I know we had count day in October, but it hasn't fully been audited yet, especially on the shared time side of it. I know our head count is up 51. Our original budget included an extra 25 students. So we know we're up on our count. Shared time, we've made a lot of changes there, so we have to still kind of pay attention to that. But I believe we'll still be above our original budget on count. And then as you know, the foundation, we budgeted 10,000, it's 10,050. So those things, with a lot of other things changing to the negative, like the MIPSers rate, the buy down rate, we didn't get that. With all of that being said, right now, it looks like we're about where we were on our original budget, not a whole lot better, but again, we still need more information. And we'll get some and share what we know by February on the amendment as best we can.
Okay.
When you said the board says that we want 12%, was that our board or previous board?
This board.
This board said we're good, and then, so I think I heard John, and correct me if I'm wrong, say 15 to 17%, for 3 months of cash, and I'm fine with 12%, it's gone up 8.5 million in 5 years.
Yeah.
But that's correct, so if you look at MSBO's recommendation, and generally is, they want about 3 months operating expenses is what they recommend for fund balance.
And
We've always run a little tighter, and other people have run it more tight, but
And the board had a conversation about it, you guys weren't ready to make a policy on that, but it was, everybody's comfortable with 12. I know a couple wanted to see it get to 15, but on the backs of knowing some other things that were going on, felt pretty good at 12. Used to be 10 in policy that we would maintain. We are much better than we used to be.
Yes.
It's up to the board.
Well, because I know mission-based budgeting will be starting in January, and just something to keep in mind, because that's 5 years is, kudos to you guys for doing that, and, puts us in a great spot, but, when is the time to invest that back into the classroom is.
and that's the hard part, especially with all the unknowns with federal money, and
Right.
we just lived, that we had to do cash flow for the summer, and, that's the hard part of it, understand it's always the fight, right? If you wanna provide kids with everything you can,
Yeah.
at the same point, you don't wanna get to a point where we gotta go to the bank and borrow money to be able to make payroll, Like, what is the final?
Yeah, and last year we made those decisions for adding some extra teachers on some pretty full classrooms, and
Yeah.
that came right out of our fund balance,
Well, we thought it would, in the end, I think,
But
in
when we
the
made
end,
those decisions,
Yeah.
it was based on what
Knowing
we
it
had
could.
and what we were willing to do to make sure that we added more teachers, and so,
it proved the right decision, it
Yeah.
could have proved the wrong decision from
That's right.
from a fund balance standpoint, but so far, like, of all the ebbs and flows of what we thought might and this and that,
yeah.
we've kinda hit it right about at the spot that is good. And, and for this year, I think we're kind of there as well, but lots of thoughts of what happens federally with the next budget. Things like McKinney-Vento, all those kind of things, like, are still such a up and down thing right now that I think it's important to have that, because to Ty's point, if something like that goes away, we may say, we feel like we still need to service kids in that area.
Right.
So that's something that we use part of that money for. So that's the way that school funding is, you all, and as Ty, as you're on the board longer, it's these weird ebbs and flows that you can't predict, but if you have a landing spot here, it sure is nice to
Yeah.
know that you don't have to immediately cut services to kids.
And I'm just looking, like, 'cause in 2020, our fund balance was 7 million, now it's 15.5, right? So again, kudos, and I didn't know about that, we decided on 12%, now we're over 12%.
I don't know if you decided, it was a conversation and you were comfortable with 12, some wanted
This was
15, but this
last
was
year?
about last year.
I see.
Yeah.
And it was just a conversation, there was no
Sure,
motion.
and I think it was something for the full board,
Yeah.
whenever the
Yeah.
time is right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And I think February, when we do a budget amendment, it's kind of that time where we talk about that and visit that, so.
Well, as somebody who operated at 3% fund balance and then 4%,
Yeah, I think when I
That
ran
can
for the
be
board, we
done
were.
too.
We
just
were at
five.
5.5%. When
That's
And to
right
be
when I was
clear,
running.
5%, it triggers an ability for state takeover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Anything
was-
under 5%.
That's right, we were just over that threshold.
That was tough. We were closing schools, we were cutting programs, and it was tough.
Noah's Benio, I remember that.
Scott. You got to make a lot of good decisions back then, yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
some
I
tough ones.
just had run,
yeah.
was
Um,
running.
Did you wanna go back to Central High School renovation at all?
Yeah, just to give you an update, so, still concerned about budget. We've had some extra utility work come up. We've gotta move a water main, so we're working with the city on that. The current plan is probably bid, in July-ish, with a demo in April of '27. At some point, I'm working with John, at some point, we wanna do some community sessions to start showing some renderings and getting some community involvement. We've got a particular small user group that's providing feedback to us. And then John's working, we might possibly have some donors that would like to provide additional opportunities there with like a mezzanine and upper seating. They really like the feel of the current high school where it's got the upper seating. And in our rendering for our budget, we didn't have that, so it's something that the group, John's working with them, but they might be interested in fundraising for that.
Do we have a policy on naming rights?
We do.
Yeah.
We do, and we visited it with the Larry Nykirk, you know, the tennis courts, and I do think, you know, with some of this, I think that there's some input from some community members would like to be able to do more above and beyond that, you know, if that comes to the point here, we would bring to the board for a conversation.
But we don't do commercial naming rights at this point.
We
Our
do,
policy is not to do any naming rights, but it's the board's discretion.
Okay.
I mean, we do
we do advertising.
advertising.
Well, I know we do it.
There will be another
Thurlby, I know.
jumbotron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
advertising and sponsorship is
Yeah.
different than corporate naming.
Yeah,
Naming's a permanent thing.
yeah.
You know, so that's the kind of linear, you know, line there that we have of permanent versus sponsorship and advertising. We generally have time frames on those things.
Okay.
Even banners and such, there's a time frame where
Correct.
they buy it for a certain time period and.
So you take the scoreboard at Thurlby, each of the permanent panels are 10-year panels. You know, for that initial sponsorship of the donors that help do the digital scoreboard there. But like, for
Speaking of the
instance,
scoreboard, is it back and operating again?
Yes,
the one on this end is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know, I hadn't heard that yet, so.
when did somebody said something about the old scoreboard, I'm like, that's not that old, but now I'm thinking back, I think you did it right when you came, right?
It's a little newer than that.
Okay,
We had that other one on the other end, we took it down and got rid of it, and,
but this one, how old is it?
How long you been here?
it's almost 12 years, so it's not that old, it's.
About 10
it's
years.
10 years
Yeah,
old.
so, may need to consider that in the next bond. Yeah, I think.
Or another advertising campaign.
There you go.
The amount of plugs being used in that press box puts a lot of pressure on the system.
So
And it's easy to kick one and
it's electronic malfunction, I take it.
Well, especially that particular game,
yes.
you know, you get a lot,
Lot of
everybody and
people.
everything, so, you know. Of
Just-
course, it's that game, had an issue with it all year,
Yeah.
you know,
They
so.
happen to make headlines, so.
It was fun though to wait like a half an hour and call the AD and say, do you know the scoreboard's out? Yes.
Jerk, I mean, it's
Yes,
pleased.
he appreciated that.
Yep.
All right, anything from sustainability?
Yeah, so, last month, or actually technically still this month, the sustainability, subcommittees met, kind of more of a worker bee session, to really work on developing clear kind of objectives and measurables for the goals that they've, come up with. And so we'll be next month having the committees present to the whole group on what they've come up with that. With that, some different investigation things, such as right now, 2 of the solar panels that we have at Central High School and at Traverse Heights right now are not working, so we're trying to get a real sense of what exactly needs to happen to fix those, to try and possibly write a grant that the group would write to TCLP. So to do that, so we've asked Train also, they may do the engineering for us to know exactly what needs to be fixed and all that, so they hope to, the goal is in January to have a a preliminary 1.0 action plan. And at that point, once we have that, I will be presenting that to the board.
All right, district purchases, I don't see anything on our agenda that we're approving, so it's pretty much status quo on the,
It's status quo. We've updated some numbers for things coming up. So the bids for Glenn Loomis are out now and are due November 20th. We've got a high level estimate there. I originally thought it'd be closer to $1 million, but knowing that the school's gonna be here 3 years, we have to make sure, even the technology, we're doing upgrades because we're not sure these projectors will last 3 years. So we're trying not to do too much at this point, knowing we'll still do a full renovation in the next bond after Central Grade's not here. But we need to be able to provide an educational environment for them. For 3 years, we're doing some doors, exterior door renovations. We made a couple renovations to the playground. We have to do a little bit of a renovation in the kitchen so that they can actually serve students out of there. It's been a while. And there's more students. We have to renovate the gym floor. It's a complete take out and redo. It's been so long since it's been done. So things like that have to be done really to be able to function a school here, and that's approximately the budget that we believe we need. Tearing down the temporary offices is really not much of it. And then the last thing is we are creating an ADA restroom, so we have a restroom inside the staff lounge that's now gonna be accessible from the outside and will be ADA accessible. Otherwise, there's only 2 other ones, one way down by the cafeteria or one inside a classroom down this hall. So it's really not accessible. So we want one accessible from the hallway towards the main office.
this room was previously the library?
And it will be again.
It will be again, okay.
Hence the bookshelves.
Yeah, that's why we left them.
See, I'm
All the
always thinking.
other bookshelves are in room 11 with all the business office storage, so we'll be able to haul those back out. We don't have to bring over what Central Grade has now. These are actually in better condition.
Okay,
I do kind of just want to mention, there are more staff that watch this than maybe at times I realize, to let them know they are wearing their tags today. And that many do, and so, but again, our principals are happy to work to reinforce that. And making sure that our folks wear badge, but there are staff wanting to let you know that they're wearing those.
We have a lot of
and
staff that
have
wear.
many that are, so.
Yeah, good.
there's some text messages of arrival.
Yes.
Yeah, currently peeling off cartoon
Yes.
characters.
It's pretty instant feedback at times, so, to the superintendent.
I am
I like the
pleased they're
live
all
feedback.
wearing their tags at this very moment.
Yeah,
So,
right,
Thank you.
so.
Right here, Scott.
Very good.
That's right.
Okay, any other items?
Nope.
No public, we don't do public comment at the end.
Nope. Okay, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.
Excellent.